Story 1. I hope John Oliver talks about this before he is cancelled too. Story 2. 1 week ago there was an on-air incident involving Brian Kilmeade and a controversial suggestion about harming homeless people. He is scheduled to appear on Fox and Friends tomorrow morning to promote more propaganda. Story 3. Freedom of speech doesn't protect speech you like. It protects speech you don't like. Larry Flynt. Or at least this used to be the case. Story 4. I think multiple Reddit subreddits will be banned soon. People do not understand how quickly this will accelerate. Story 5. So if he is being pulled off the air for talking about Kirk and the threats to the American Broadcasting Company, does this mean the Fox News host who said we should exterminate the homeless will be canceled too? Story 6. Look, I don't care about Kimmel. But the fact is that the Federal Communications Commission is threatening a comedy show over what it considers to be factual inaccuracies. Free speech is gone in any meaningful way. The next chair of the commission should pull Fox off the air if we manage to get through this. Story 7. If you read the comment he made, it was not even about Kirk himself. It was about how Make America Great Again supporters were trying to use the death for political purposes. Ironically, pulling him off the air proved him completely right. To those who say he was calling the killer a Make America Great Again supporter, you are wrong. He did not call the young man anything. He just pointed out that Make America Great Again supporters seemed extremely desperate to label him as something else. And even if he did call him a Make America Great Again supporter, which we do not know is true given all the disinformation coming from Patel, canceling the entire show for getting one thing wrong is still a disproportionate response. If lying or saying something wrong should get you canceled, no Fox News opinion shows should remain on the air. Story 8. If Charlie Kirk were a 6-year-old in school, we would have moved on by now. Story 9. Just canceled my Disney Plus subscription and put that as the reason. Is South Park still going? I want to see what they say. Trey Parker and Matt Stone would love to get the show canceled after signing a $2 billion deal for a few more seasons. They would receive a nice breach of contract settlement. Story 10. Brian Kilmeade said to kill homeless people by lethal injection a few days ago, and the Federal Communications Commission did nothing. Jimmy said something about Kirk that hurt the snowflake's feelings. Pretty wild. Story 11. We are in a constitutional, judicial, political, and democratic crisis. Story 12. Cancel your subscriptions to Disney Plus and Hulu. Stop watching the American Broadcasting Company and the Entertainment and Sports Programming Network. Deprive them of your money. Take to the high seas for their content, as it's now civil disobedience. Story 13. Free speech does not exist in the United States of America for those who disagree with the government's agenda. The country is not a democratic nation and is one of the least free modern nations. If a comedian cannot make jokes about someone in a monologue while multiple news networks willfully broadcast disinformation to incite people to violence, that is hypocrisy and places the United States of America on the same level as North Korea or Russia. We have state-run television, and the Federal Communications Commission has become a partisan entity, as has the Supreme Court. Almost every safeguard in the United States has been compromised under the current administration. Story 14. It is pretty bizarre, since everything I can find about what Jimmy Kimmel actually said is innocuous. Isn't America all about free speech and personal liberty? This is becoming the land of Donald Trump and Kim Jong-un. Regardless of political leanings, this does not bode well for freedom of speech and is deeply concerning. Story 15. I guess I will not watch the American Broadcasting Company anymore. Cancel culture goes both ways. Story 16. As an outsider looking in, your conservatives support cancel culture. Interesting times. Story 17. I keep thinking about the beginning of the movie V for Vendetta where the comedian is arrested and probably executed. Story 18. Supporters of Make America Great Again are now doing everything they accused liberals of doing. Story 19. We no longer live in a free country. Only one side gets to speak while the other side is silenced. Story 20. As someone watching from the outside, America is in trouble. Even if fair elections are held, you will still be harmed because the Democrats would have to change laws and rules to prevent this from happening again, and those changes would likely be draconian. Story 21. If you do not see this as a direct attack on democracy, you are the bad guy, plain and simple. Story 22. The United States is being destroyed from the inside. The United States and the Central Intelligence Agency have a history of doing this to other countries. There are two ways to attack a country. One is direct invasion under the guise of providing democracy, as the United States did in Iraq. The second is infiltrating political systems and government and destroying the country from within. The United States has carried out such actions in other countries. I feel sad and terrified for the United States. I remember the American government and the Central Intelligence Agency's past actions and wonder if this is karma. Note: I believe Donald Trump is evil, and I also think he works with or for Vladimir Putin. I think there are ties between them. Story 23. The right are a bunch of pussies. They have shown it repeatedly. Poor babies don't like it when people talk about them. Story 24. This is like North Korea, only it's happening in America. Story 25. No rational person is surprised by this. Trump is using the Putin playbook and he is not even hiding it. Story 26. Whether you like Jimmy Kimmel or not, it is extremely un-American. We are spiraling increasingly fast every day. Story 27. I took Disney Plus, Hulu, Entertainment and Sports Programming Network, and Max off the air. I canceled them and sent a note explaining why. Story 28. You do not need a network for a platform these days. Fuck American Broadcasting Company, Fox Broadcasting Company, and the rest of them. Story 29. Why won't they honor Charlie's wishes? Release the Epstein files now, unredacted and in their entirety. Stop the stall. Story 30. I think Charlie Kirk behaved poorly, and there have been allegations linking Donald Trump to Jeffrey Epstein. Story 31. Brian Kilmeade wanted all the homeless killed by lethal injection. He still has his show. Kimmel's comments were not even that bad. Story 32. Freedom of speech is under attack. If you support this, you are a fascist loser. Your rights are under siege and have been for the entire time these people have been in power. Story 33. I'm so upset. Our dictator is now controlling what television we watch, and we have 3.5 years left. This country needs a giant meteor to hit it now. Story 34. This is a blatant attack on the First Amendment. The whole purpose of free speech is to protect us from government retaliation for expressing opinions or facts that those in power dislike. Story 35. If you love democracy, you'd better vote with your wallets and, at a minimum, cancel Disney Plus. Story 36. The pedestal they are putting Charlie Kirk on is frustrating. Story 37. As someone who watched Putin's takeover of Russia, I can tell you that the United States is on a fast track to becoming an authoritarian state. Story 38. Our highly paid government officials are focusing on Trump's revenge tour. Meanwhile, inflation is rising, more people are unemployed, the two wars he promised to stop are raging out of control, and his tariffs are beginning to increase prices. He is digging us into debt and sending troops around like a 5-year-old with toy soldiers. Worst president ever. Story 39. Freedom of speech no longer exists, and some people are too stupid to realize it. Story 40. Oh my God, America. I am German, and I have to tell you something hard. Watching you repeat parts of our darkest history feels like a nightmare. You are sliding toward authoritarianism and dictatorship, and most of you do not even seem to realize it. Maybe it is because you have always seen yourselves as the winners, as if history could never turn against you. From the outside, it is painful to watch. Even people who call themselves Democrats or who remain apolitical look paralyzed. Tired, sad, passive. The drift continues. You could act, you could resist, but right now you are not. That silence is its own decision. Story 41. This is completely illegal and violates the First Amendment and the Bill of Rights. Story 42. Real thoughts. This is fucking bullshit, given Brian Kilmeade just called for the murders of homeless people and nothing happened to him. Fuck these double standards. Story 43. As a Canadian, this is shocking to watch. To see openly authoritarian moves being made with no shame or cloak of plausible deniability is disturbing. They have been doing this to the political left for years, but they seem more comfortable now that they are targeting more liberal media. I do not even like Jimmy Kimmel. I was laughing out loud, but this is still shocking. Sorry to all Americans who did not want this. Wishing you luck. It is striking to see the hypocrisy from the political right, but disingenuousness and hypocrisy are core to them. Story 44. It's actually terrifying. We are not slowly slipping into fascism. It is happening so fast. Government-controlled media? Really, in the United States? Story 45. It's alarming how quickly free speech is being stifled. Story 46. I am not a fan of Jimmy Kimmel at all. I have not liked him since The Man Show. However, I do not think anything he said warranted censorship. If the American Broadcasting Company removed him because he is not funny, I would be much more agreeable. Story 47. I am a red-blooded conservative, and I do not think he said anything wrong. Story 48. They will continue to ban items and change laws, just as Wilhelm Frick did in Germany in the 1930s. This is not new. It has simply been forgotten. Story 49. After what happened to Colbert and given Disney's history of lacking a backbone, I am not surprised, but I remain worried about how far this path of censorship will go. It is ridiculous. Kimmel did not disrespect Kirk in death. Rather, he mocked Trump for doing so. Story 50. At my company, we must sign a social media clause. If I mention anywhere that I work for this organization, I must include an automatic disclaimer. My views do not represent this organization. Freedom of speech does not mean I can say whatever I want and keep my job. Ask Rosenbar. Story 51. The First Amendment is officially decimated. John Oliver will be next. How are these people okay with watching the Constitution they supposedly hold near and dear be systematically obliterated, except for the right to keep and bear arms? Pretty soon they will whittle away at the Constitution so that all that remains is their guns, and people of color will be treated as 3/5 of a person. Story 52. This is one of the things that happens in a fascist government. Who is surprised? Things are going to get a lot worse. Story 53. He should sue the government for violating his First Amendment rights. Story 54. A. Obvious hypocrisy regarding cancel culture. B. What he said was not controversial at all. He only said that the Make America Great Again movement wants to blame their own enemies for the shooting, which they proved by blaming Jimmy Kimmel. C. The Federal Communications Commission threatened to pull the American Broadcasting Company license. That was obviously illegal, but they know it would take years in court to fight. D. They did the same to Stephen Colbert without any pretext. It was just an excuse. After that happened to Colbert, Donald Trump said he would go after Jimmy Kimmel next. Story 55. I'm done. I've had it with this country. I don't even watch Jimmy Kimmel, but to yank a show off the television because of a monologue about Charlie Kirk, and I saw what he said, is unbelievable. Freedom of speech is over, and ironically that is what Charlie Kirk ranted about. I live in Texas, and that is even worse. Story 56. I believe our slide into fascism is accelerating at an alarming rate. Story 57. This is frightening. By this time next year, there may not be a single dissenting voice in the media. Every major outlet is owned by hardline conservatives who do not care about humanity, fairness, or art. They want money, and the fastest way to get it is to appease Trump, so that is what they will do. Story 58. At some point, this administration will come to an end, and the only remaining question is whether it will drag the rest of the country down with it before that happens. Story 59. I think Loomer is getting rid of those talk show hosts. The pedophile party, also known as the domestic terrorist party, is setting the bar for what can be said when they kill the next person in group fights. Story 60. All these CEOs are kissing the ring because they are also on the Epstein list. Trump is using it as leverage. Story 61. 3 things. We are now officially a fascist state. Allowing these mega media corporations makes it much easier to silence opposing viewpoints. I am canceling my streaming subscriptions to Disney, Hulu, the Entertainment and Sports Programming Network, and I will not watch the American Broadcasting Company. Kissing the King's ring has consequences. Disney. Story 62. This is absolutely ridiculous and a sign that America is losing, or has arguably already lost, free speech. Story 63. I never want to hear about free speech from the right again. Story 64. The Constitution is at risk. Thank you, Supreme Court, for giving a blank check to this official. There are no rules anymore. Story 65. It's funny how America has always claimed to be the champion of free speech, but it is firing a comedian over some jokes. My country has some minor restrictions on free speech, but comedians treat our politicians far worse than American comedians do. Little by little, the United States is becoming a shithole country, thanks to the movement that claims it wants to make it great again. Story 66. We have blocked all American Broadcasting Company programming. No Dancing with the Stars or Grey's Anatomy for us. Story 67. I am furious. Colbert being cancelled made me sad. But he is still on until next spring, which gives me time to cope. I watched Jimmy Kimmel live religiously, abruptly pulling it like this is despicable. Story 68. His removal from the air is much more offensive than his comments. Story 69. Not surprised. Any dissenting voices within the administration will be silenced one by one. It has been clear how the United States government has been moving for some time. It is surprising they are so quick about it, but all I can do from a distance is watch. What Americans will do about it remains to be seen. Story 70. For those wondering how Germany became fascist in the 1930s, this is it. Story 71. The United States of America is doomed, fucked, and royally screwed. Your president now has the ability to cancel anyone who does not agree with him. Take a pause to think about that. Who does this remind you of? Could it be Hitler? Story 72. The United States is heading down a slippery slope when the administration threatens to revoke broadcasters' licenses if they do not agree with what is being broadcast. This is what happens in dictatorships. Story 73. Boycott the American Broadcasting Company and the Walt Disney Company. When money stops coming, they will sing a different tune. Story 74. He said that supporters of Make America Great Again are desperately trying to characterize this kid as anything but one of them, when there is overwhelming evidence that he is not associated with Make America Great Again. Story 75. I think supporters of Make America Great Again are a bunch of thin-skinned projection pussies. Story 76. Why Disney and the American Broadcasting Company are bowing down to Trump escapes me. Jimmy Kimmel spoke the truth. Even if he did not, has the Constitution been suspended? Is there no more First Amendment? When they tried that in Brazil, the president was charged and tried. We need far more pushback against the dictator trying to take power in the United States. In the meantime, I will no longer support Disney in any way. No Marvel or Disney movies, no American Broadcasting Company programming or Hulu, no visits to parks, and no purchases of merchandise. It may not seem like much, but it is what we as individuals can do. Story 77. This man has been president for only 9 months. What will the United States look like when he is finished? That is what worries me. Story 78. Bend the knee, capitulate, do not talk back or express an opinion. Praise the leader, turn your neighbor in, hate those different from yourself. Step out of line and we will take your money and your power. Does this really feel normal to you? Story 79. I don't give a fuck what side you are on. No opinion should ever be silenced. Story 80. The right hates cancel culture only when it applies to them. Story 81. Apparently free speech is allowed only when those in power agree with what is said. Story 82. I am angry. My mom died last month, and this, along with Colbert's show being cancelled, feels like a punch in the gut because she loved their shows. Story 83. My opinion is that the President of the United States is a rapist, a pedophile, and an adjudicated felon, and he is on the Epstein list. Story 84. Regardless of your political affiliation, spreading flagrant misinformation instead of factual evidence is a quick exit from nearly any industry. Story 85. I hate it. Censorship is utterly un-American. The founding fathers must be turning in their graves. Story 86. Here is the thing. The American Broadcasting Company can remove anyone they want because it is their channel. Freedom of speech does not protect you from your employer. They may have their own policies. However, they removed him because of Donald Trump's influence. connections, and threats, which is illegal. I think it is disgusting. Jimmy Kimmel has been the same person with the same content for decades. His removal has nothing to do with his jokes being insensitive. It has everything to do with governmental influence. Illegal and disgraceful. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.